Hello, and welcome again to Spiritual Becoming. I'm your host, C.L. Christoffel. And today, I'd like to speak a little bit about power and our conception of power and our interest, it seems, in having power over each other. I spoke about this in several of my other vlogs. But again, as I bring things up that come to the forefront of my mind while talking them out in other vlogs, I like to then step back and reassess and flesh out, those momentary thoughts and give more context. Well, this is context or background, and I probably will talk about power a lot, but this is a little bit of beginning context for what I mean when I talk about wanting or using or misusing the ability to take power over each other in this life. But I want to talk about a story that I heard on National Public Radio a few years ago, maybe even 5 or even 6 years ago. It's a story about a bird called the Kakapo. The Kakapo is a bird from New Zealand. And it's thought that the Kakapo flew to New Zealand in the distant past and lived undisturbed, unmolested for millennia. And in that time, there were no predators whatsoever. And so they gave up on flying. Now, there are other flightless birds in the world. We often call them food. And as ships found their way to New Zealand, they brought with them people, of course, but people brought with them cats and rats, and eventually the weasel. The Kakapo couldn't stand a chance. Once the cats and the rats and the weasels started eating the Kakapo, they became indeed endangered. The genocide was ripe for happening. The Kakapo were sitting ducks. Now that gave me pause for a moment to think about other sitting ducks in history. People who have sit back on their laurels, have relaxed, and have dug into their lives for whatever reason. Perhaps out of poverty, perhaps out of, perfected civilization or perfected culture in a way that the quote-unquote outside world or other tribal influence or other, societal influence didn't necessarily matter to them. And yet, people, some people have the nature to want more. They want not only what's on their own plate, they want what's on their neighbor's plate. They want what's on the plate on the other side of the restaurant. They want to peek in the kitchen, in the cupboards, in the ice box to see what, could possibly be there that may be just a little better than what's on their plate. I don't think that everybody has this sort of nature. I don't even think that a large percentage of people have this sort of nature. I believe I read somewhere, please correct me if I'm wrong, that about 3.5% of people have true psychopathology. True psychopathology. Meaning that most people, 96.5% of everybody, are genuinely good people. They're not born without conscience. But even those good people on a continuum can have less conscience, or perhaps more narcissism, and they think so much of themselves, they think that they deserve more than everyone else, and they refuse to share. And they send their minions out, and they call them conquerors, and they call them conquistadors. They call them the Great, the Alexander the Greats, and the Peter the Greats, the best killers, the best conquerors, the best at usurping what is not theirs. We have crusades. We have crusades for things as silly as lapis lazuli in order for us to grind it up and paint our true blue outfits for Mary, the Mother of God. Afghanistan has been attacked over and over through the centuries for lapis. It's silly in a way. We see diamonds in Africa. We see oil in the Middle East. We see coal in the Kentucky mountains. And we want it. And we tear at the earth and we take. We want those beautiful old growth forests to be managed. We say we're protecting them from forest fire. I'm sure there's a part of that that's true. But we also want that board feet in order to build our castles. Can we think of other predators from the past that have come looking for somewhere resource stuffed? The Ponce de Leons looking for the fountain of youth, looking for gold. Cortez the cat, looking for the city of gold. Magellan, the weasel, looking for passage to the Far East through the Straits of Magellan, getting lost in the Philippines, proselytizing to the natives, never making it full way round the world, although he is credited. His crew, I guess, made it. How about Columbus, the rat, one of the greatest conquering, slave trading people in history that we hold up on a pedestal and give a day to? Columbus Day. Columbus Day. A day that ought to live in infamy every year. Power corrupts. Certainly, power corrupts. The want of power, the want of storehouses, starting with storehouses of food, then storehouses of weapons to protect the food, and storehouses of wealth that's built upon having the food. Our food is still locked up today. We still must give our pittance in order to unlock it. We have now institutionalized the cat and the rat and the weasel. And there are Kakapo everywhere, including us. The institutional nature of our want, our hunger for power over each other has taken the form of legislation, has taken the form of lawsuits, has taken the form of corporations. We have written it into place that people can act upon other people righteously or maliciously with no repercussions other than the exchange of money. A corporation does good in the world, even philanthropic good in the world, as they are not allowed to do unless it does benefit them monetarily. But when they do act philanthropically, they are rewarded, oftentimes monetarily. But when they fail, no one goes to prison. There are no ramifications for deaths under corporate rule. There's just a fine. Money changes hands. People live, people die. People are protected by corporations, fed by corporations. New technology is hoisted in front of us, whether we like it or not sometimes. But there is growth under corporations, certainly. And they will absolutely, great self-promoters that they are, tout that to the heavens. That look at all the progress. If it wasn't for us, the world would not be fed. Which may or may not be true. I think it's 6 of one and half dozen of the other. But I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. There are enough people now corrupted by luxury, corrupted by the idea that the American dream is now ubiquitous, and the dream is a dream of having. The dream is a dream of the haves versus the have-nots. The dream looks like oak floors, Porsches, marble floors, high vaulted ceilings, beautiful homes, landscaped homes, homes with magnificent views, homes that shine on the hilltops for all to see. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, they scream. Do you trust someone in a Mercedes-Benz more than you trust someone in a old rusty Volkswagen Beetle? I often wonder if the best in our society are sitting zazen on the side of the road. We call them bums. You sit zazen anywhere else in the world and they call you a saint. Perhaps it is that we're overlooking our greatest spiritual aspirants and our greatest spiritual gurus because we mix and mingle them with our dregs, our mentally ill. Perhaps our sages are protecting and proselytizing to our mentally ill by joining them. Christ mixed and mingled with the lepers, with the mentally ill, those who were afflicted by demons. Why wouldn't our sages now mix and mingle with the lesser of these? We might be overlooking Nanis and sages and Christ's chosen ones everywhere, calling them bums, calling them vagrants, writing laws for them not to panhandle. And then there's prophets in all cultures. There are gurus and aspirants in all cultures. There's the peace prophet in our culture who walked across the United States how many times? Peddling the gospel, her gospel. I met her once. She said she wouldn't eat unless someone offered it to her. That sounds like a samana from Siddhartha, from Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. That sounds like a true spiritual aspirant taking up her cross. Do we look down on her for her worn shoes? It seems to be inbred now in us to kick the Kakapo, to eat the Kakapo, to destroy the Kakapo. It may be not the prettiest little brown bird. How many brown people are we devouring now? Because of this idea that somehow we, America, white middle America, the wealth of America is white. White. What does white mean? And the privilege that goes with it. I, being a white man, look awfully pink in the mirror. And I certainly am not sentimental in any way about the civil rights movement or about slavery. I look at it for what it is. Sickness, the illness of greed and wanting power over other people, the illness of believing one person, one race, one type, one social, one's social class, social status, education, whatever, gives one the right to take power over someone else, to dominate them. I remember reading a book about Andrew Carnegie once, about the way that he set up his factories, the way that he treated his employees. Not so good. Not so good. But his idea was that he was smarter and more moral than everyone else. And so it was okay for him to treat people poorly in order to make the money. And with the money he would do good. And certainly we have 500 Carnegie libraries and Carnegie Hall, and the Carnegie Foundation is most definitely doing good in the world. But at what cost? At what cost amassing those fortunes with which to do good? Does the ends justify the means? Does the ends always justify the means? I think it's imperative now for us in the 21st century, in this half-formed world, to take a very, very good look at ourselves. It's time to bring to the forefront of our thinking, honestly, who we are, what our intentions are. So who protects us from the predators in the world? From the predatory lenders? From those who would sell us anything? Sell us destruction. Sell us our own destruction in order to make a profit, in order to have their short-term profits, in order to have the good life for themselves for a moment before the whole of the world is destroyed. What does the world look like if we protect it? I read somewhere, and the source eludes me, so if you watch this and you are the source, please don't sue me. Just please correct me, and I'll make a video about where the source came from. But I read somewhere that all people on the planet could live in Texas, in the state of Texas, if it was designed properly, if everyone had their own garden and photovoltaics on the roof, wind power, we had a proper system of both irrigation and sanitation. We had proper governance so that, people didn't step on each other's necks, but also no one took more than their fair share. If everyone lived a nearly equal existence, we could all survive in Texas. We spread across the entire world. We braved the Arctic for 15,000 plus years that I know of, crossing the land bridge, coming across into Canada with the Algonquins and whatnot, coming down through North America, and long before that in Siberia. We have braved the Netherlands and Sweden and Norway way up toward the Arctic Circle for millennia, for 1,000 upon 1,000 generations. For 200,000 years, Homo sapiens have been walking this earth, surviving in all manner of situations. Why now are we so much more apt to destroy everything? It's probably because we have the means to do it. We've been able to blow up the entire world over 20 times or whatever the statistic is since the bomb, since Oppenheimer, since he became the destroyer of worlds. Why destroy the world? Even as a deterrent, why build machines to destroy the world if not to strike fear in the hearts of other people? Stand off, stand away, stand back from me. My world, my intentions are better than yours, like Andrew Carnegie. I was saying, subjugate your staff to make the money in order to then become a philanthropist. It's odd. People's motivations, their reasons. If you scrutinize, if you look at the motivations of some of us, perhaps all of us, under a microscope, our motives are basically leave us all wanting. Would I, having been born from an extremely wealthy family, would I be a conqueror? Would I be a destroyer? Would I step on necks? Perhaps. Perhaps. I am as rotten as everyone else. I am as good as everyone else. We have to do that. I have to do that. Look at myself in the mirror and see that I have the hands of a killer, that we are defined as killers in the world. In that existential way of defining ourselves, taking responsibility for the fact that humans kill. These hands are capable of that. There are weapons of war, there are weapons of self-protection, whatever. But I have the means. But the motive is what I lack. I have no interest in hurting anyone. But under what circumstances, under different circumstances, do we make different decisions? Why do some people commit crimes of passions? Why do some people, take it upon themselves to steal from others as though the world is a pie, a mercantilistic pie, that there's only so many slices and I need to take half of the pie, or me and mine, we won't have enough. If we share the pie, we'll all starve. If we share the pie at the American standard of poverty with everyone in the world, that is true. There won't be enough pie to go around. But our standard of poverty still has, flop houses with kitchenettes and refrigerators, flop houses with wall-to-wall carpeting and television sets, and iPhones, and access to health care. Americans are the most unhappy people in the world. So it's, statistically, what everyone says is because we're always told that we're not good enough. We should be in want. We should want more. We should push for more. We should live a lifestyle of the rich and famous. We should be like what you see on television. Everything is clean and pristine and perfect and unadulterated. But who protects us? Who protects us from each other? We have, militarized police that protect us from each other. Why? Why is that necessary? Why are people not polite, kind, compassionate, good? Even when we're taught to be, even when we're raised to be, even when we're nurtured to be, sometimes our lower nature comes through and we destroy and we hurt others. But then who protects us from our protectors? Those who do carry guns, those who do stupidly, inanely stupidly build weapons of mass destruction to destroy the entire world. Not in my name. I would never have asked for that. No matter the beating of the drums for war, I would never ask for the entire world to be destroyed. Who thinks these things are a good idea? Who looks at themselves in the mirror and says, but I have to, because if I don't, they will. And they probably will. And who are they? And how are they so mad with their want of power? How can we even it out? What do we do? How can we do it? How do we move forward with a better world? More war? We do that all the time. More guns, more laws, more surveillance, people watching people, the good people with the law behind them watching, the bad people, all of our intentions laid bare, good and bad, on the table to be rifled through by bureaucrats. Is that good for us? Are the bureaucrats' intentions better? The bureaucrats are the ones who said it was okay to build the bomb in the first place. Did they not? Tell me they did not. Who are the good and just and moral and right people that get to own the law? Why are we not the experts in our own lives, the experts of goodness and kindness and justice? Perhaps we are. I see protesters being beaten and clubbed and dragged away every day. Every day. I see nuns who spray paint at nuclear power plants, a couple of little messages, get 3 years in prison. Sick. I see whistleblowers being chased, even though the information that they're being chased for is real. The true, sick, depraved, guilty parties go free. And we chase those, we chase the messengers, we kill the messengers, but we don't go after those who were perpetrators. It's madness. It's madness. Put down war. Educate for people. We oftentimes educate toward technology. We educate toward finance. We educate toward keeping ledgers properly. There's 100 million ways to stretch and hide a penny. Our accounting is upside down and backwards complicated. And yet, we forget to forgive. We forget to say thank you. We forget to say, may I help you with that? The woman who goes to the offering plate at the front of the church and throws in her 3 pennies is overshadowed by the Pharisee coming in with pomp and circumstance and large sacks of gold. We overlook people so easily, throw them away, make them commodities to our industries, make them not assets, but indentured servants, slaves. Indentured servants theoretically can buy their way out of the prison. Slaves must keep coming back. How do we change the world? How do we protect? How do we serve? How do we adjust our worldviews toward compromise? I love cliches. I think some of the most noble truths are written in cliches, so I'm going to end with one. You want to change the world? Change your mind. Be fierce in your kindness. Be fierce in your goodness. Be fierce in how you protect the least of these. Be fierce in how you fight to educate women around the world. Be fierce in how you spend your money to preserve the world, buying locally, protecting your neighbors. Be fierce in how you love. Thank you. Take care.